Good morning.
Good morning.
Happy Wednesday. Hey, if you're on, tell us hello. We like to know who it is we're talking to. I'm one of them. So who else is out there?
What's that say? 2 right now?
It says 2.
That's
yes.
us.
Oh, are you on 2?
I am.
It says we're talking to us. It's fine.
We're good.
It's
We're
fine.
okay with it.
We didn't make any announcements that we were hopping on, so
Yeah.
sorry about it, but we are. We're going to be joining you on Wednesday mornings around 9 a.m. That's fun
Yeah.
for Unedited Chats.
We're not exactly sure what it's all going to look like right now, but we are here taking action,
Yes.
doing the thing.
I am excited about doing the thing.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there is momentum that is on our side, and there's inspiration, and I don't know. I'm excited. That doesn't take much. I'll admit that, but I am excited. I'm excited about what Jesus is doing.
Yeah.
And what he's doing around here isn't without tension.
Oh yeah.
Because
Yeah.
so much of it we don't know what we're doing. We're just
Mhm.
saying yes and moving forward. Anybody ever been there?
Yeah.
Yes. So sometimes the invitation requires a response, but you don't necessarily have all the pieces.
Mm-hmm.
But we're doing it anyway.
That is an excellent point. Excellent point.
Yeah. I think that's what keeps people held hostage to yesterday.
Absolutely. I know I have been in that place where it's like I can't see what's going to happen next or 2 steps down the way, and you just stay kind of frozen because it's easier to step into something when you can really visualize what it all looks like.
Right.
And when you can, it's like the Indiana Jones movie, The Last Crusade, where he's looking at this chasm, but he can't actually see that there's a walkway there.
Yes.
And he has to just, on faith, step out there, and his foot hits, and he's okay, and he realizes, okay,
gosh,
I can walk across here. And so it's an excellent point to bring out that, yes, that's what we're doing around here right now. We are taking the steps, even though we know that's what God is calling us into. So we're taking those steps, but he hasn't given us what the full picture looks like. So
yeah, and
it's exciting.
It is exciting, and I think that we need to be okay with fumbling. Like,
yes,
it's a part of it. It's just a part of it. Like there's going to be. I always reference sports. Jeez Louise, there's always going to be turnovers. it's how you respond to the turnover that matters, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I think that we think that church should be polished, that we think that ministry life should be pristine, but let's just face it, the Savior was born in a barn.
Mm-hmm.
So like that's where we started. So I think it's okay for us to not know where we're going and just continue to take steps forward anyway.
Yeah, that's something else that we have talked about in looking at these changes that we're making and new things we're moving into, is that the polished presentation, the polished performance is not what you're going to encounter here. Right. That will not be the experience here. Angie has talked about this as being more of a teaching hospital. So you are going to see people who have an assignment, and they are going to be empowered to exercise that here. And so that is not going to necessarily be polished in the beginning of figuring out what that looks like and trying out new things.
Yeah. Well, so. and we know for sure, we are certain that we are called to raise up disciples. Mm-hmm. And that is going to require us to have those blinders on, so that we can't look to the left or to the right and compare it to something else, because it's not going to look the same. And that's got to be okay. We have to be okay with that what it is that God is calling us to do isn't going to look like other ministries. And that's easier said than done. Because it's easy to look at other ministries and be like, I think we might have got it wrong. Or to listen to prophetic voices and be like, oh, I don't know.
Or look at them and be like, ooh, we're just too small. We can't do that.
Right. Oh, talk about that. Say more.
Oh, this is a huge thing. I've listened to some podcasts from some very well-known people who have big ministries doing big things. And I hear the same language in that just this morning, hearing the same language in there that we have used here without knowing that's what they're doing. What some of the things that we are moving into and starting here in 2022, they're doing also on a scale that I had no idea about.
Wow.
And in the same manner that we are talking about stepping into these things. And so it's very easy to look at that and be like, wow, that's so huge. How are we going to compete with that? Or how are we going to be able to do it in, again, this polished way that they are able to because they have this huge budget.
Right.
And we don't. So that comparison game to larger ministries or more polished presentations, oh wow, they can really get your focus off.
Right.
If you just let that feed into what it is that we're doing here, what it is we're being called, what we're seeing, to be an encouragement to say, oh yeah, it can be done, and God's moving us in that. It's probably not going to look like that. It's obviously not going to be the exact same thing because we have very specific points we're moving into this year. And so that comparison is another thing you have to have outside of the blinders. If you let that get in front of you, wow, can it derail you?
Yes.
And then you're right back in that point where you're not taking action.
Right.
Because I don't have the budget. I don't have the people. I don't have this or that, whatever the thing is, whatever the resource is that you think you don't have, you do.
Right. And then it just becomes a game of chutes and ladders where it's like you're making progress, but then you look and you see what you don't have or what you're not doing yet. And then there's the chute all the way back down to the beginning. And there's a point in that. I mean, like, I feel like in these toddling moments where God is just like, trust me that I know what I'm doing. And that the Bible tells us that his word will not return to him void. Like it's not going to return to him empty. And if he says that, why don't we just believe it? That's my big thing. It's like, my only thing to do here is not to make something happen, but to continue to say yes. But yes to what? And that was the question that we had to answer. Like we actually use we love a whiteboard around here.
Oh yeah.
And make fun of it all you want. I will never change my ways. I love the whiteboard.
Just helps the visualization process.
Yes. And yes, because when I see something written out, it's so much easier for me to process through. But we knew that God was like bringing in a massive shift, but couldn't really like articulate what it was, and it was like being in a state of mourning, like, oh my gosh, like everything I thought this was going to be, like you're now saying no to. And I think it was more like, are you willing to put all of it on the chopping block? Are you willing to submit all of these things to me and allowing me to, go through these things and decide what gets to say, what gets to be empowered, what gets to have the breath of life on it for this season. And it was like, finally, like, okay, hands off. Like I'm not going to meddle. I'm not going to meddle in what it is that you're bringing because, and I had to conclude, and I think that we both did. We had to conclude that why am I wrestling with God? Like he knows what he's doing. And he knows what he created me for. So if it is beyond what my small vision was, then this is going to be great.
Yes, exactly.
Right? Because even the small vision that I've been able to enter into and participate in, that at one point in my life was beyond recognition. Like there was no way when I was even 25 years old that I could see myself doing what I'm doing now. That was like, what? Like, no, Angie does not speak in front of people. and she barely speaks to the person next to her. You know what? I mean, it was just like my personality was not going to yield to that kind of a calling. And yet, here we are. And so, of course, being able to say, okay, God, do what you want. Like, we'll go where you send us. And we were uncertain as to whether, Sunday mornings were going to be a part of the things that got removed. And because we really felt a passionate call to disciple people who know what the call is on their life, who have the dream, and knowing that it's going to cost everything, not just for the person that's being discipled, but there's a cost on those who disciple, like a lofty price on those who disciple. I mean, it takes everything.
Yes.
It kind of takes the wind out of your sails.
It certainly can.
Yes, because it's messy. And that was something that I actually taught on the cost of being discipled, and came to this conclusion that, oh my gosh, like, not everybody's called to be discipled. Not everybody.
Yes.
Hear me. This probably sounds heretical, but understand what I'm saying. Like, not everybody is called to follow Jesus like that. Not everybody can answer the call. Maybe that's a better way to word that. And it's just like Nicodemus. Like, Jesus invited him to be a disciple, to come and follow him, and Nicodemus couldn't give him his yes.
Yeah.
And that's got to be reality for us. Is not everybody's going to be able to answer the call. Everybody will probably receive an invitation, but not everybody's going to be able to pay the price. And because it will cost everything. Yeah. And again, that's not just for the person that's saying yes to, like, yeah, I want to follow Jesus like that. I want to give up everything to this call on my life. But it costs those who step into the arena of discipling. And I think that as a church, we haven't done that well. That we have permitted all of the various excuses and all of the things that humanity can conjure up to say no to Jesus. But we're looking for the people that are wanting to say yes. And be all in, and are willing to submit their lives to, honestly, it's unto another, right? Like, we submit unto another. So you're submitting to the authority that Jesus has placed on the lives of those who are leading. And it's hard. This is not where we plan to go, but I think it's a good direction.
Yeah. And it's okay. Like, not everybody is going to answer that call, and that's okay. God still loves you. You are still his child. You are still a son or daughter. You're still a king and a part of the royal priesthood.
Absolutely.
That does not change. And so we just want to be clear on that point as well. But to come to that realization that not everybody is going to answer that call, that's kind of a shock.
Yeah.
Because it's just one of those things, in the Christian life, that's expected of you to, in whatever way that looks like, to answer that call, and it's just not the reality of it. People are going to wind up with different assignments by not answering that call, and it's okay.
Yeah,
it is okay. You just do what you're doing.
Yeah, and that's not to say that we don't want to work with people with a dream.
Well,
because we very much do.
And that was another thing I was going to say is, even if it's not discipleship unto ministry, there is a space we have carved out to work with people who have a dream that maybe falls into some other place. Maybe it's art, or maybe it's starting a business, or whatever the dream is. Right. Yeah. Whatever that dream is, we're making space to work with them as well. Yeah. That looks much different, obviously, than working with somebody who's going discipling.
Right.
But that is more of a mentorship relationship, and we still access the same spirit to work with those people as we do in that discipling space. And so there are still big dreams that come out of that, solutions, vision for the future. it's still very exciting, and it's a lot of fun for us to still do that as well.
Yes. Oh gosh, it's one of my favorite things
Mhm.
is to be able to see the dream somebody holds and then begin to like see them turn and face it. I mean, that's just like there is no thrill for me like that where someone gets like that amped up feeling of like, oh my gosh, I think I might actually pursue this.
Yes.
And that's exciting. And that's what excites me about discipleship too, is that it's just a lot more hands-on.
Yeah.
And actually, one of our dear ladies in our church that just really, she'll speak into our lives whenever she has the opportunity and prays for us. We just absolutely love having Khalida part of this. But she pulled me aside and she was like, I see what it is that God's calling you to do, and it's going to cost you everything. Mm-hmm. And I was like, oh my gosh, I just had gotten done telling everyone else, like, this is going to cost you everything. And I've paid a high price to be where I'm at anyway. But she's just like, this is going to cost you your reputation, because not everyone is going to understand, excuse me, what it is that God is calling you to do and is requiring of you. Yeah. And it is true. And she's like, and I just see that like your hands are dirty, like your hands are in the soil and you've got dirt underneath your nails. And then she went into this whole like talking about the firebrand of the Lord and that he's branding me. And I'm just like, oh my God. I was like ultimately undone in the moment. And it was so funny. Like the moment was hilarious because it couldn't have been any more discipling than this, because it was sheer chaos the entire time that she is trying to like get this word out over my life. And I kid you not, during this like 5-minute time span, there were probably 6 people that came up and interrupted us. And I was like, gosh, this is such a picture. This is such a picture of what discipling is, what it looks like, because there is always distraction. There's always going to be a pull to be distracted by something else. Yeah. And that's what you have to guard against, is realizing that like, no, like it's the blinders. Put the blinders on and leave them on, dang it. Right. And we know that the ask that we are partnering with Jesus and the ask that we are putting on people's lives, we know that it's slightly rigid. I mean, would you say that's true? Maybe that's a harsh word, but
no, I think that's the correct terminology to be used.
Yeah.
Because there has to be some rigidity to it. Mm-hmm. It has to be more of a structured thing because we're trying to help keep the blinders on. Right. And really that is the best analogy about what that needs to look like.
Right.
Is you've got to put the blinders on and be singularly focused towards Jesus.
Right.
And so.
Right. Yeah. And seeing that promise, like have it ever before you. And he ultimately wants good things for us. Like he saturates us in goodness and cover. I mean, like there is just nothing that he won't do on our behalf. So yes, the chasing down the call as far as discipleship is concerned, there's a rigidity to it, and we have to be okay with that. Mm-hmm. And that's hard because you want like those of you who step into a space of discipling, it's hard to maintain those boundaries and not want to soften them. And and even as a mom, like, you tell your kids no 100 times and then it's like 101 and you're like, okay. Like I'm done fighting and you just kind of cave. But so it's like being on guard and being on guard all hours of the day and realizing that like this is going to be a tough road, but God knows what he's doing. And I refuse to make a fool out of God. Like I'm not going to say yes to him and then 5 days down the road be like, it's too much, you don't know what you're doing, God. That's what I mean by saying that, like I'm not going to make a fool out of God. He knows what he's doing in me, he knows what he's doing through me, and I just need to trust that he does. Like he knows where it's at. So anyway, we said introduce all of that information to say that that's where we know the focus is, and with that, we have what we call the boundary lines, and which would be values, the values
Yes.
of our organization. And there's, I don't even know how many there are. I should know this information, but I don't.
I think
know
there's
how many.
around 10.
Something like that. It's like 8 to 10, something like that. And one of them is radical obedience, and that's the one that we really feel like Jesus is pinpointing for this year, especially. And because I think that where we're going, where he's taking us to establish us, is going to require radical obedience, that to a T, that we're doing what he says to do. And this is not outside of, us having choices to make.
Right.
Because I do think that God presents choices where he's like, what do you want? Like, just make the decision. And we're acknowledging the fact that sometimes, especially within Christianity, we're like, you make the decision, because if it goes wrong, if we do fumble, if there is a turnover, I need it to be God's fault.
Right.
And not because I just maybe wasn't clear on the directions. And that's where I'm saying, like, we have to be okay with the turnovers. We have to be okay with the fumbles, with the stumbling, falling down, but get back up. Like, the game is still going. One of my pet peeves, and this happens in girls basketball all the time, because girls are mess. The opponent, a player on the opposing team will fall down. The game does not stop, but you will see girls stop in the middle of the game. Are you okay? No, we don't have time for that. Like, they'll get up. They're going to be fine. And I realize that even in saying that people are like, well, you just don't care. No, it's actually the opposite. I care so much that I know if I take the time to stop and coddle you in that space, you will not get up. You'll delay your obedience and stay there and be like, but I fell down.
Yep.
The game didn't stop. Get up.
Right.
Right? Like, you just need to get up. You need to come to the place where you don't need someone to stand over you and say, are you okay? Because you are. You're okay. You're okay. Just because you fell down, just because you stumbled, turned the ball over, fumbled, that doesn't speak to anything outside of you being human.
Right.
And there's margin for that. But get up. Right?
Right. Get up. Because when you get up and you look at what just happened, you can pull stuff out and be like, okay.
Yeah.
Next time this starts to come around, I'll be able to recognize it, and I'm not going to fall down.
Right.
I'm going to be able to just go right through it, right around it, over it, whatever it is.
Yeah.
But you're not going to fall down in the same way twice. And that's why it's important to quickly get up and not stay there, because the longer you stay there, you will completely miss what God could be showing you in that moment.
Right.
Because it's not his fault that you fell down, but he will use that for your good.
Right.
But you got to quickly get up.
Right. And it's so interesting, because back in like October, my husband was rewatching Friday Night Lights, the TV show. And in this show, I've seen this probably 5 times now because he's obsessed. If you're watching, I'm calling you out. And in one of the episodes, QB1 goes out. He's paralyzed. He can't play anymore. So it comes down to Matt Saracen. Matt Saracen is the quiet kid who does no wrong. He shows up. He does everything that he's supposed to do, but you never notice him because he's content to just exist. Well, now something's required of him because he is the backup quarterback. And the coach is even like, are you kidding me? Like, I'm left with Matt Saracen. So the coach has to change his mind, right? How many times have we had to do that about people? Like, change my mind and let me see the person the way that you see them. And this happens. This transpires in this episode. And the coach goes to Matt Saracen's house. He tells him, get in my truck. And he takes him to the football field. It's dark. And they turn the lights on, and here he is in the middle of this football field, and the coach is putting an expectation on his life. And Matt has never had to meet any expectations other than just existing. and they turn on even like the noise of a crowd. And so, it's like probably midnight and they've got him out here and they have this expectation on his life. And the coach just hands him the football and he says, run the routes. And I mean, like the expectation that this coach has on his life is so lofty, and he's expecting him to be loud. He wants to hear him over the crowd noise, and he wants him to run these routes perfectly. And at first, Matt's just like, going through the motions, and the coach gets in his face, and the football coach slobbering, screaming at him, and Matt is just like shaken by this because what's happening is he's having to awaken Matt Saracen to who he really is, and the requirement that this coach puts on his life is just stellar. And so in the middle of all this, the coach is like screaming, I can't hear you. And so by the end of it, of course, Matt's voice is raised above the crowd noise and he's running these routes and he's doing it to perfection, the perfection that the coach is demanding of him. And in the middle of it, God starts talking to me. And he's like, that's who I need you to be. And I'm like, what? I'm like, pause, rewind. And so he made John rewind the whole thing. And I'm sitting here and I'm like crying because I'm just like, because I identified more with that coach than the expectation of being a soft and gentle pastor that I feel like people expect of me. Yeah. And God is going, that's who I need you to be. And that's what this next season is about. And I'm just like, holy cow. And that's hard. It's a hard shift to go from this expectation of being, soft and gentle. And not only that, but I am a woman, in case you didn't notice. And so there's an expectation on that too, that I'm being motherly or whatever. And
or be the one standing over.
Are you okay? Like I would come to your need. And actually that is more a false sense of Angie than me, telling you, get up, like, let's go, pick up your mat, right? Be well, let's go. And I feel like God is giving me permission to be fully me. And what's interesting is, like, if you follow the Enneagram, on the Enneagram, I'm a 4. And a 4 actually goes to 2 in stress. And the 2 is the helper, right? So that's how you can know, like, if I'm actually coming to your aid and I'm being mushy and like coddling you, you may be concerned. That's reason for concern because I shouldn't actually be doing that. It's just not in my nature to default to that. Now, I am kind. I'm kind. I will see you in your pain. But I'm just saying that in the season, I know what God is requiring of me. He's like, be that coach. Be that coach who's willing to shake people into their right identity, to step into their calling and become something, and not just content with existing. And that's why I talk at length about get off the dang sidelines.
Yeah.
Like, we cannot be on the sidelines. It's not where anyone belongs. Know your part and run it well.
Yeah. That's good.
Yeah.
So good. I don't have anything to add to that.
Yeah. It was a profound moment. And I feel like everything, I wasn't planning on talking about that, but in the middle of this conversation, God was like reminding me, I told you. And now I'm going, oh. The pieces for me sometimes come together in awkward moments. So you're getting to see that in real time. You're welcome.
Yeah, I guess the only thing I would add to that is, like, we have talked recently when we went through submission.
Yeah.
Talking about submitting one to another and iron sharpening iron. That is not a soft thing. That is abrasive.
Yes.
It creates heat and there's pressure involved with that. And with that, it's not soft and gentle. It doesn't look that way.
Yeah.
Because when you are being sharpened by another person, it's gonna likely feel a little uncomfortable.
Right.
And that's a good thing.
Yeah. Yes.
You know, when you start to feel that, you should kind of be like, oh, all right.
Right.
And kind of push into that and press into it and really pull on whatever is being presented to you to sharpen you.
Yeah.
It should be something that you look forward to rather than feel like, ooh, this is like a confrontation,
Right.
or something that you're coming down on me or whatever. And, that's not it. That's not it. So,
Yeah.
like you said, if Angie's coming at you soft, you should be like, this isn't right.
Angie's stressed.
Either that, or she's pulling her punches with me, and why is that happening?
Oh yeah.
Why
That
are
happens
you?
often.
Yeah, why are you deciding to pull punches on me?
Yeah.
That's likely something you
Shoot,
should
now
have.
I've outed myself.
But it's good because this is an example of what we talked about when we say, know what it is you're carrying and share that with the community so we can hold you accountable to
right.
that. And so this is an easy one to be like, oh, you're pulling punches on me here.
Yeah.
This is not where is it that I need to be sharpened right now?
Well, and ultimately the call is to advance the kingdom.
Mm-hmm.
Is to break into that kingdom realm and advance it, and our revenue is people. That's I mean that's what we're stewarding is people and disciples.
Mm-hmm.
We are stewarding disciples, and I want to know that we're spending them well.
Yes.
And there's a high price to be paid for discipling and discipleship. And I'm not saying, please understand what I'm saying. It's like it costs everything, and I'm not saying that it's a monetary exchange. I'm just saying that there's a high price to be paid for that, and it really will cost you everything. Everything that brings you or has brought you comfort has to change, because that's what's kept you stuck. It's what's kept you in a place of complacency. And if you have said yes to being discipled, then you need to be willing to have that drill sergeant in your face and have a right response to that, and know that those people have your best in mind. Like, my job is to keep my eyes fixed on the vision God has placed on your life, the promises on your life, and making sure that everything that you're doing has you facing the heat of that promise, and to make sure that you're not turning your back on it or allowing yourself to be sidelined. That can't happen. It just can't. And so it's an intense calling, and I feel like it's intensifying. And like, even with I've got a kid that lives out of state, and he's going through some really hard things right now, and I found myself like just naturally slipping into this, and I'm going, oh shoot, like he's sobbing, and like maybe I should be like, honey, it's gonna be okay.
It's hard to turn off the mom.
It is, but no, what I'm saying, like, it was the opposite. Like, it was like I was coming at him super intense, like, no, we need to know, like, what does this mean? And how are we gonna grow from this? And you can't stay here. And it actually, I was nice up front. Calm down. I was like, oh, honey, it's gonna be okay. I even cried with it because mourn with those who mourn, right?
Sure.
But there's
don't stay there.
But don't stay there. Like, we have to move beyond that, and we did, and it was helpful to him. That that's exactly what he needed, was for someone to shake him out of that. And right now we're kind of yo-yoing and falling back into it and having to repeat, but that's part of it also, and I'm okay with that, as long as there is a response of like, right, I remember right.
Yes.
So anyway, it's hard to shut off once it's on. And so anyway, I understand better, even through this conversation, understand better why God is like, Sunday morning, pulling off a Sunday morning service is not actually the call on your life.
Right.
And you need your focus to be somewhere else. And I'm feeling that. I'm feeling that even in, Sunday mornings, like being in it and going like, the power isn't here anymore. Like, this is not where I feel like have you ever been in that space where you feel bulletproof and that it's the authority of the Lord? And it's like, that's not where it is for me anymore. It's not on Sunday mornings. It's actually working with people and getting dirty, getting down to the soil of their life. And so anyway.
So that's a good segue.
Yeah.
That just kind of happened.
Yeah.
Unplanned, because up till now, none of that conversation was planned.
Right. But it's been good.
It has been. That is discipleship. This is the one of the big things. Like when we were evaluating Sunday mornings, God was asking us, like, this can't be your focus. Sunday morning can't be the focus of Unedited Life,
right.
and the central point of everything we do. And so he was asking us, to just stop doing it. And really what we figured out through a lot of conversation and just time with him, that he was wanting us to change the conception of what we were doing on Sunday morning. Yeah. And if discipleship is really what we are supposed to be doing, it had to change, because the way church is normally done does not lend itself to discipleship. It lends itself to a program.
Right.
Gathering. A gathering in order of service, and you check the block down the order of service. Did that, and everybody that attends gets to check the block that they went to church that week, and then they walk away, and maybe things change for an hour. Maybe they change for a day, but there's no sustainability throughout their lives, throughout their days and weeks, because there is no discipleship there. There's no real conversation. There is no push to be in the space of Holy Spirit every single day,
right?
Looking for answers from Him, looking for conversation, pushing into the union and that relationship that you have with Father, Son, and Spirit.
Yeah.
And so that's why we decided to start doing these workshop style discussions the following Sunday after a teaching.
Yeah.
And so this coming Sunday is one of those. And so we have some questions that we're going to give you today that we are going to go through on Sunday and talk about. And between now and then is your opportunity to sit with Holy Spirit and talk to Him about these things. Start uncovering things, receiving revelation and wisdom about the kingdom.
Yeah.
And so the title of Angie's teaching this last week was Seek First. So yeah,
we talked all about the kingdom realm. Not that we concluded anything, but we talked about it.
And and this is I'm glad you said that, because what we decided about these workshops is we're not trying to make any conclusions.
Yeah.
We do not want to conclude anything. We want to have a discussion. Yeah. We want to hear people's thoughts. We want to hear what Holy Spirit's saying to you, because it's going to be unique.
Yeah.
Everybody has a unique expression of freedom, and that's being birthed out of the kingdom.
Yeah. Yeah, and so often in conversations, and this has just been my experience, I'm sure that y'all can relate to this, is like, especially in like team leader meetings that I've been a part of historically, is there will be a conversation, something will be said, somebody in the room gets heated, refuses to give language to it, and alters the atmosphere in the room. I mean, we've experienced this over and over and over. And not just, I'm not just talking about here, I'm talking about like historically. And sometimes, this goes to the nth degree. And the problem with holding in what it is that it starts off as like Holy Spirit identifying something in us. And like there's something that's being said that isn't sitting well. And when we refuse to acknowledge that in a group setting, then it just festers and it turns into something that it never should have been. And now we have a conflict on our hands. And so I'm saying this because I feel like if we're not careful with how we're showing up to these workshop Sundays, we're going to have conflict that we're having to deal with. Now, you can deal with whatever's coming up with you in the moment, being like, okay, when you said that, I felt whatever. And rather than like, because it's what happens is that so quickly turns into blaming.
Right.
Or, especially in the church world, we love to be like, that was witchcraft, or when she said this, it was that. And, like we jump to these ridiculous conclusions and we begin to label people rather than sitting with what it was that they said. And so I think that it's really important that we not come into the space thinking that we're going to conclude anything or that anyone in the room has the answers to anything, nor do I expect you to show up with the answer. I'm not going to listen to anything that anyone says and be like, that's it.
Right.
I might be like, whoa, that was profound.
That's good.
And I'm going to take that. I'm going to line it up with some scripture. I'm going to be like, Holy Spirit, what do you say?
Right.
And then, like, from there, I'm going to be like, okay, like, that was awesome. Now we have more intel on what the kingdom realm is about.
Yeah.
And so it's more like gathering information that could potentially become revelation, right? We are not going to call anything from these conversations solid revelation, because we are called to weigh things, to judge things.
Yes.
And then we can be like, oh, wow, that's truth.
Right. And we're called to search things out.
Yes.
And that's part of what we're after. And the one thing that we will do that will look like correction is if things start to get off topic, we're just going to make it known now. We will stop it and be like, that's off topic. Let's just redirect, and it's okay.
Yeah.
No judgment or anything, because it happens.
Yeah.
In conversations, you'll be talking about one thing, and then all of a sudden, it's the YouTube cat video thing. How did I get here?
Yes.
And we don't want these workshops to be like that, because we want to be very intentional about the conversations.
Right.
And so that's why we have the questions that we are going to walk through, give everybody opportunity to say what they have to say on topic. And so if it gets off topic, we'll just steer it back. So just know that.
Right. Yeah. And with love.
Of course.
Like, again, we want to make sure that we're all facing the promise. And that looks like the workshop is ultimately discipleship. We want to learn how to have brilliant conversations. And I said this, I think last week sometime, is that we as Christians, as Christ followers, suck in our communities because we don't know how to have conversations. We do not know how to effectively communicate.
We know how to get offended.
We know how to be offended, and that's pretty much the extent.
And it goes from offense to lashing out.
Yes.
Like that.
And that is actually not influence.
Turns out.
And that's what we're wanting to learn how to do, is to have influence, not just in our little huddle, but out there in whatever sphere of influence God is giving us, so that we can rightly engage in proper communication, which means, first we're hearing each other and being willing to understand, where did that come from? You just said this, and I'm just curious, like, where did that come from? One of my favorite things is like, whoa, like, love what you said, but tell me more. I want to know what's sitting behind that.
Yes.
And so that's probably what it's going to look like. And for the most part, I feel like, our job in the workshop conversations is referee, to be able to be like, wait, what? Like, say that again, or hold on, before you react to that, like, I want to hear more. And just feeling like, and that's like, for me, it's easy to step into that being like, whoa, I see that there's more sitting behind that. And so I think it's going to be fun to be able to pull more conversation out. And I'm just hoping that everybody comes with something, because it's not like these people are the ones that are leading this. And nope.
No, there's not going to be anybody up on stage.
No, it's the Knights of the Round Table.
Right.
I keep referencing that because I like it.
And like Angie said, our job's more referee than participant. We are going to host this. We can help get things started, but really, this is opportunity, because we don't want to have the single person on the platform where everybody's looking to for answers, because then that person becomes the one you're discipling towards, and not Jesus.
Yes.
And we have talked about this for I don't know, since the beginning of this
Yeah.
organization. So
Right.
since the start.
Yes, because you shouldn't look
yeah.
like us. You should
Right.
look like Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
And if we are ever caught discipling someone to look like us, to take on our appearance, then we have failed the mission.
Yeah.
So you are to look like Jesus.
Mm-hmm.
Do you have any questions?
I do. So
Okay.
here we
I feel
go.
like we need a drum roll.
Drum roll. Yeah.
Hear it in your head.
Hear it in your head. Okay, and done. Okay, the first question we're going to go through, and we are going to go through these in this order. The first one is, what does it look like for you to seek first the kingdom? You specifically, what does that look like to seek first the kingdom? Question number 2, what are your thoughts on the unseen realm? Question number 3, how do you know you're in the kingdom realm?
Love that one.
I do love that one. That one's going to be a fun one.
That will be fun.
And then the fourth one, and Angie did ask this Sunday morning, is what am I making the way for?
In context, that was about, we were reading about John the Baptist, and he was talking about how his assignment was to make way for the Savior. And I feel like so much of the calling in our lives is like, what are we making the way for?
Yeah.
And so just to give you a little bit of context on that question, that's what it is that we're talking about, is unto what? That's another big question that we've been asking ourselves.
Yeah.
Unto what? We're doing that, but unto what?
Mm-hmm.
So anyway, guys, thanks for being with us at whatever point of today or tomorrow or Friday.
And we will update the description to have those questions in there.
Yeah.
So
have a blessed Wednesday. Yeah. We will see all of you at Presence Night tonight at
6:30. All right. Bye.